Hello folks, Andy Taylor here, Red Rock Roofing, where we stand for greatness. I'm here at 7132 Four Rivers Road here. I'm going to do a quick inspection video for the roof. Big home, beautiful home. I'm going to do this in 3 parts. So the first thing I want to start with is that the sand-like substance that you'll notice in the gutter system really shows wear and tear and age on the roof. So there's definitely quite a bit in there with a bunch of debris. So these gutters definitely need to be cleaned out. The home does have a 1-inch drip edge down here, which is not code at this time. Code is a 2x2 inch, 2 inches over the fascia, 2 inches back under the shingle, encapsulating all the eaves and rakes. It does at least have a drip edge on it. Now, the first thing I noticed in getting onto this roof is that it's very, very crispy. It's hard. It's, essentially cooked from underneath. There is definitely some thermal cracking going on the roof here. It is pretty consistent throughout the roof, and I think that has a lot to do with the ventilation here. So in heading up on the roof, really the first thing that I saw that really needs to be addressed right away is going to be, there's a few boot jacks up here that actually have this same problem. So this is one of them, and then with that, every nail head on the roof is exposed. Needs to be sealed with a bead of silicone on it. So again, any of these nails that are rusted out like this, they've been like that for a while and should definitely have sealant. All these nail heads that are underneath on the beauty course for the skylights and whatnot are all exposed. I have a few problems where the shingle is just ripped off around the area, so those would need to be replaced. And anywhere where there's a final end cap shingle to fix the ridge, every nail head exposed. So with that, the ridges up here have taken a huge beating. They have a lot of granule loss on them. Like these ones here, like 25% granule loss on the west facing side of this very ridge. The very end piece here is ripped off as well. So that shingle used to be there. With that, a lot of the times when you're doing a repair to these and you try to put shingles underneath others, the moment that you take a really crispy shingle like this and try and lift it so you can put another shingle around to be able to do work, it's going to damage these other shingles. The repair on this is going to be pretty good. So I'm going to go over here and focus on the left side, and then I will address the back side of the roof in my second part. Again, another boot jack that is completely split here and been letting water in for a long while. Nail heads everywhere are exposed. But again, the west facing slope of most of these ridges out here are missing 20-30% of its granules that are there. So I think a lot of these ridges need to be replaced. Then you've got spots on the rakes of the home where the nails are starting to emerge from the surface on there. When a nail starts to do that, that is a big indication of ventilation. Now, even for this left side of the home, zero ventilation here. To continue, you can see that the edges on these are starting to curl, and it has a lot to do with the morning sun, dew, and whatnot. So here's another spot where the shingle is actually being lifted because of the nail that is emerging from the surface, and that can become a very vulnerable penetration point for water to migrate. Up here on the left side, the top ridge here, you can see there's an exposed with felt paper that is showing through and has holes in it. So that's likely been letting water in for a while. I'm going to move to part 2. Part 2 in addressing the back side, which is going to be the south facing slope. This is always the worst part of the roof because the sun hits this pretty much all year round. So the ridge up here has nails that are emerging from the surface. So as these rise, and this is about a 1/4 inch up, this is a little bit less than that, but as those rise, they let water into the system. That water can create condensation between the two and help cook the shingles even more. As you can see, this ridge on the south facing side is missing a lot of granules. Now the south facing is really where I kind of want to focus because there is a lot of granule loss on this side due to weather, age, wear and tear. But you can see that there's a lot of silvering going on all of the shingles on this south side, very crispy underfoot. So when you can see thermal cracking that's going on like that, it's a very hard indication of ventilation. This roof has zero ventilation on it. This should have something like a ridge vent going across all of these ridges down here, and then an inflow vent down at the bottom. It's letting air into the system. And if these are vaulted ceilings in here, it's even more important that you ventilate that, because the thermal space on the inside, you know, when you got it in the winter and you pay for heat, a lot of the times that heat's rising, and it's only, you know, 8 to 12 inches between the ceiling and the roof decking there, which can cause major issues. So again, boot jacks up here that have problems. This has a hole in it, needs to definitely be replaced. Every single nail needs to be sealed. I'm finding on the rakes of the home there are quite a few nails that are rising from underneath these. Now again, as crispy as these shingles are, when you start to do work on something like that, it will start to crack up shingles and going on around it, because you've got to lift these in order to get underneath to fix nails like that. The head wall metal on the chimney piece here is definitely rising all the way around it, and you can see at one time it's been worked on a couple of times, so this metal has a memory to it that just keeps pushing up. But I can tell it's been worked on because there's silicone on these nail heads here. Shingles that are kind of wearing away and really cracked up. This side's missing a small piece of it. Now, not my job to do so, but the stucco on this chimney, it's been worked on with silicone, and it has all kinds of openings on it. The skylights look pretty good. They do have silicone and sealant on the tops of these, so it tells me at one point in time maybe some condensation or moisture, so it's been worked on. But the flashing all looks good on that. Again, I'm going to keep focusing on the back side and then move to the garage part for part 3. The ridges, again, up here with the west facing slope up here, you can see that's missing 20-30% of its granules on a bunch of these shingles. I think if you're going to work on any of this, you need to have the entire ridge done. But then you get here to the corner where the ridge meets the roof coming down, and you can see the shingles that have ripped off from there. Another indication of zero ventilation, and then cracking with nail heads coming through. So when you've got nail heads coming through in the valley system that sheds water down to the gutters there, this is a clear indication of ice damming. Ice damming that can rise these nails up out of these shingles. And it's not on every single slope out here, but this is definitely a tough one, because you only get so much sun right here during the day, especially in the winter, and these trees really cover up everything. So from this angle, you can really see the silvering that's going on this backside. Again, underfoot, this roof is very crispy, very, very hard. Dimensional pieces that are missing, and you've got lifting to shingles on the backside as well. The whole ridge looks really bad on this very top part. You can see nails that are starting to come through right there, and all the silvering going down these end shingles are just missing so many granules. And there are spots where it's missing, you know, 10% here, 10% here, but it's very consistent on the back side. This boot jack is not in terrible shape. Part 3 to my video here at 7132. I'm gonna really focus over the garage and on the back piece here. So like normal, the ridges are missing granules on at least one side of it, and then all the nail heads are exposed. There are a few spots where blistering has come through, and you can see fiberglass on this ridge specifically. So a few spots where, you know, the wear and tear on the roof is just getting worse, and has a lot to do with this tree here, and really preventing, you know, shingles from keeping debris like this off of them. Really doesn't help in the aspect of a roof. So on this side, and I hadn't noticed it really anywhere else, but I think it's because it's the garage, there's all kinds of heat blistering up here, where you can see the wall on that particular, it's consistent out here. What happens is the air stagnates and forces its way through the shingles, creates a wall around these little spaces, and you can see that they're consistent up here on this side especially. So making my way to the top, I mean, consistent across is the nail heads at all are exposed. This one is lifting from the surface and becoming a problem. This ridge specifically is not losing a lot of granules, but I think it's because sun doesn't get here very much. Definitely some wind damage out here as well. Dimensional pieces that have blown off from these shingles that are here. So I'm going to continue down and across the back. what I did notice is that there's no gutter up on this part here. So a lot of the water that just comes down and funnels down can splash and do whatnot. You've got pollen going underneath this soffit. So again, any of these pieces that are covering up head wall metals, they need to be sealed. My last piece for this is, this is my last part over here. I just noticed it in walking up, is that right here where the stucco meets the roof, you can see at one time there was definitely either a piece of flashing that was here or the shingles that came up to it. They just didn't put a piece of flashing. Right there next to the gutter, you can see exposed wood underneath that stucco. So that is pretty much the gist of what I've got to show you on the roof. Now, just to give my professional opinion on this, if this was something that I was looking at, I would consider that the repairs are so massive and what can happen to shingles when they're this crispy, that this needs some love for sure. Other than that, Andy Taylor with Red Rock Roofing, I very much appreciate the opportunity to get out here, bring you up to speed. I'm going to go ahead and sign off.